Per Ramona, Shelbourne, Lonzo Ball is expected to miss training camp and more than likely the start of the NBA season. What does this mean for the Bulls moving forward? Where should they look for some point guard help, and who's going to be in the starting lineup? We'll talk about all that and more starting now. Now, if you are new to the channel, please hit that like button. Please subscribe to the page. We do talk Chicago sports daily on this channel. It's the only channel talking Chicago Bulls, our Chicago talk. So make sure that you get in tune with us, man. So I was having a pretty good day. Yeah, I'm saying had to rest a little bit. Wasn't going to do too much today. Dropped a couple of clips from the podcast today. Was just letting it ride. And then the news comes across the counter that Lonzo Ball is expected to miss training camp and the start of the season. And the tough part is, right, I felt like a lot of Bulls fans felt like we were going down this path. Like this was going to be something that we were expecting to come. But you were still holding out hope, right? Arturis saying that he felt confident that the Bulls would find a way to get something done, and that Lonzo was progressing well, that he was moving a little slower than they like, but that he was moving in the right direction. And now we get this rock solid report that all of a sudden he's not going to be available for training camp. And I think that is the tough part, right? Because now you kind of not only have to go into a pivot right now, but a lot of your future plans hinged on a young Lonzo Ball coming back and being a part of this team. That doesn't mean that he's not going to be there for a good chunk of the season, but at a minimum, you understand that he's not going to be there at the start of this season. So the question on the table is, what does that mean kind of around the point guard position for this Bulls team? Of course, you can throw Ayo Dosunmu back in there, but now the question mark's going to be, okay, with Ayo in there, you feel good about Ayo being the starter. He did really well last year. How's this offense going to run around him? This offense absolutely runs better with Lonzo Ball in it. This offense absolutely runs smoother with Lonzo Ball in it, just because of the basketball IQ being a lot higher and the experience of being an NBA point guard. Now, not to say Ayo can't get to that, but I think that there's going to be some steps there that are going to have to be taken this season if we're going to see all of a sudden Ayo Dosunmu kind of be, I mean, you have to talk about him, right, competing for being the long-term starter at this position now. And I think on the other side, right, it does deplete a little bit of your bench depth at that legitimate point guard position, right? Like we've got a bunch of combo guards on this team: Javonte Green, Kobe White, Dalen Terry, Alex Caruso, right? So then you have to ask yourself, who do you want to slide into that point guard spot off of the bench? And is this the reason that Goran Dragic was brought here to be that bench point guard for the Chicago Bulls? This could have been something that they've seen long term, and that's why you bring in a guy like Goran, who, although every night he's not going to be able to make that impact, he does have that veteran experience at the point guard position. And so I think you might see a lineup off of your bench of a little bit of something like, you know, Alex Caruso coming in at your two guard, maybe Goran at your point, or I'm sorry, Goran at your point, Kobe coming in at the two, Caruso coming in at your three guard, maybe a little bit of time split between him and Dalen Terry as Caruso moves to the two, depending on how Kobe White plays, right? And I think that'll be your backcourt / front court kind of rotation there. Marco and Drummond, of course, coming off of the bench as well. But I think that that's where you kind of have to look at it and say, hey, we don't really know. We're losing out on some of the depth here. And so now we have to try and set these guys up positionally to be in the best opportunity defensively off the bench. And I think that's going to be a combination of having Alex Caruso playing a couple of different spots and rotating Dalen Terry in there, because Goran Dragic, right, offensively, if the offense of the bench is clicking, they're going to be able to shoot the ball. But if you're talking about an offensive lineup that has Kobe White, Dalen Terry, Kobe White, Goran Dragic, and Alex Caruso is basically your only defender off the bench, and you're throwing Marco in there as well, right? Now you're looking at that and you're saying, good Lord, they're getting cooked defensively on the benches. So I think that's something that you really have to look at and play into, right? And this is tough. This is a tough situation for the Bulls to be in. Hey, let me know how you guys feel, man. What would you say your lineup is going to be? Let me know in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you guys as well. What would be your bench rotation? Who would you put in the starting lineup? Who would you put on the bench, right? Remember, Dosunmu kind of started getting that starting role because Caruso was missing time as well, and that's when you really saw Ayo take over that role. So could you see Alex Caruso in the starting lineup? Would you rather run Ayo off the bench? Let me know in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you as well. Here's the other thing you have to ask yourself, right? What are you going to do at the long term of this? You hope that Lonzo is able to come back this season, but this was supposed to be a 6 to 8 week injury that happened back in January. And now we're getting into the 8 to 9 month range of this injury. And if he's missing training camp, we could be talking about month 9, 10, 11. I don't know how long into the season this is going to go. So I think you have to start asking yourself these questions now. What are you going to do at the long term of this point guard position? And maybe that is, here's a crazy idea to think about. But I mean, if you guys watched any of Summer League, maybe that is where they feel Dalen Terry can fit most, right? Dalen did a lot of the point guard duties at Arizona when he was working out there with Ben Mathurin. He was the guy that was setting a lot of those highlights that have Ben Mathurin coming down, dunking on somebody or getting a nice cut to the bucket. Dalen Terry's the guy that's feeding him the pass on that. So you have to look at that and say, okay, is AK already having the foresight where we understand that Ayo can be a point guard, but I think Ayo's more of that combo guard. You want to see him be able to put his scoring ability on display with his defense. But at the same time, right, like, do we want him as our long-term point, or is Dalen Terry where AK was really thinking about going? Is that the move? Is that why Dalen Terry is in the building? Because AK can see kind of the writing on the wall where Lonzo may be here for the long run. He may not. I think that's a thing that Bulls fans kind of have to ask themselves. While I expected Lonzo to miss some time, I did expect him to miss training camp. I figured that by the time we got to the season, he would be back pretty close to the start of the season. But it seems like that's not going to be the case. And so now you have to start asking some tough questions that take his history into account. Okay, he's had some injury issues in the past. He's had some injury issues here. He has played seasons where he's played pretty much most of the season. You look at some of those seasons where the games are short. They were in shortened seasons and he played most of those games. But also you have to look at the fact that, listen, he's got this injury history. He's got this history of missing games. What does that mean for his future? Again, he's really young. He's 24 years old. So I wouldn't be surprised if all of a sudden he's able to bounce back and they're kind of just trying to wait out this bone bruise thing. Again, AK said he's progressing well. He's moving in the right direction. He's not moving backwards. He's moving forward. It's just not at a pace that they would like him to be at. It's at a very slow pace, and it's not at a pace that's going to get him back on the court by the start of the season. But again, when you're dealing with this, I said this last season, right? I'm fine with Lonzo taking his time. I'm fine with Lonzo not being here at the start of the season because at this point, we're so far past the 6 to 8 week mark, it doesn't matter anymore, right? Like now we're talking about just get back here. I need you in the second half of the season. I don't need you in the first half of the season. I'm fine with you. I'm not losing my mind that he's missing the first half of the season. My concern is he going to be ready to go for the second half of the season? And is he going to be healthy moving forward? Like dings and dinks come here and there, right? When you're playing the NBA game, they come when you play at Export. They come everywhere when you're playing sports, right? It's just a part of the game. You're going to have injuries. But the thing is, are they those long-term injuries that are keeping you away from a team at a time when the team most needs you? And that's kind of what it's been for Lonzo Ball. So you have to start to ask those tough questions of, okay, where's this backup going to come in? Who's going to be this guy that's going to possibly be able to take over this starting point guard role if Lonzo Ball can't come back 100%. And I think the other question that's a long way off question, but if we get to that, to anywhere near past the first month of the season and this Bulls team is clicking without Lonzo Ball there, then you have to start asking yourself, okay, is he coming back to be our bench point guard? Because do we want to mess up this rotation? I think there's some tough questions that are floating around the Lonzo Ball situation. I think there's some tough questions that are floating around just, is he going to be back? When is he going to be back? But at a minimum, we do know that he's expected to miss the start of training camp. He's also somewhat expected to miss the beginning of the season. And that's kind of where we stand at it. But I mean, again, this is our first real update in a while on Lonzo Ball, right? We kept hearing like just one way. Oh, well, there's this. We literally just heard what, 3-4 days ago to Casey Johnson saying that Lonzo Ball's knee was progressing well. And there was an expectation that he was going to be back at training camp. So I don't know what this is going to end up being by the end of it, but hopefully Lonzo is able to come back, have a speedy recovery in season, and we get him back in here working with this team, preferably before the All-Star break, because you want to see him in here working with this team while teams kind of are just like, okay, like we're just going through the motions trying to figure this out. Not in the heartbeat of the season when you're hoping and praying that you make the playoffs and we're trying to grind everything out. But as always, man, let me know how you guys feel in the comments below, where your concerns on Lonzo, how you guys feeling about the whole situation. I'll be down in the comments talking with you as well. As always, man, it's your boy Pat, the designer, back at it again to continue watching our Chicago Bulls content. Click the links on the screen or check the links in the description below. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Peace.